Welcome back to Forged from Pain, the show where we transform the struggles we face into the strength that guides us forward. I'm your host, Sir Grim, and today we're taking an important deep dive into a topic that touches the lives of countless individuals and families, navigating the fine line between support and enabling when it comes to addiction. Addiction doesn't just affect the individual, it ripples through families, changing dynamics, relationships, and the very fabric of daily life. But what does it truly mean to support someone struggling with addiction? And how can we make sure our efforts don't unintentionally enable harmful behaviors? In this episode, we'll be exploring the crucial distinction between supportive and enabling, and how understanding this difference can empower families to foster healthier relationships with their loved ones. We'll share invaluable insights, strategies, and help you carve out a path of compassionate support without sacrificing your own well-being. So join me as we navigate this critical issue together. And remember, though pain is a common thread in our stories, it's through forging connections and understanding that we find the courage to rise above. As we delve into this journey together, it's essential to equip ourselves with the knowledge that can guide our actions and interactions. Let's begin by defining the important distinction between support and enabling, an understanding that is crucial for families navigating the complexities of addiction and recovery. Understanding the distinction between supportive behaviors and enabling behaviors is crucial for families navigating the complexities of addiction and recovery. Here's a detailed breakdown, starting with supportive behaviors. Supportive behaviors are actions taken by family members and loved ones that foster recovery and help the individual struggling with addiction develop coping strategies, resilience, and independence. The main key characteristics of supportive behaviors is encouragement, active listening and empathy, providing resources, promoting accountability, setting healthy boundaries, as well as modeling healthy behaviors, and lastly, genuinely showing care. Supportive family members provide positive reinforcement and motivate their loved ones to seek help, pursue treatment, and engage in recovery activities. They celebrate all milestones and successes, no matter how small. As well as supportive behaviors include validating the feelings and experiences of the person in recovery. This means being present, listening without judgment, and expressing empathy towards their struggles. This can also involve helping the individual access treatment programs, support groups, or professional therapy. It's about facilitating opportunities for recovery rather than doing it for them. Supportive family members encourage personal responsibility. They recognize that the individual must be accountable for their actions and decisions and gently hold them to that standard. Supportiveness includes the capacity to set boundaries that protect both the individual in recovery and the family unit. This means knowing when to help and when to step back, ensuring that the individual does not become overly reliant on others. Family members can support recovery by modeling healthy habits and coping mechanisms such as healthy communication, stress management, and emotional regulation. But expressions of care through tangible actions, like something as simple as cooking a meal, attending the family event, or just simply spending quality time, can signify commitment and love, reinforcing a supportive environment. Next, we'll go into the enabling behaviors. Enabling behaviors are actions that, while often well-intended, inadvertently assist the individual in maintaining their addiction or escaping the consequences of their actions. Enabling prevents the individual from facing reality of their situation and seeking necessary help. Some of the key characteristics of enabling behaviors are covering up or making excuses, financial support for substance use, overprotectiveness, ignoring negative behaviors, diminishing the severity of the addiction, and taking on their responsibilities. And lastly, threatening consequences but failing to follow through. Family members might deflect blame or cover for the individual's behavior, like lying to friends or even covering to their employers about their absences, allowing the individual to avoid facing the repercussions of their addiction, as well as providing money or resources without setting conditions, can enable continued addiction and continued negative behavior. This support can include paying the bills for them or even providing funds that allow the person to buy the substances in the first place. Now, while it arises from love, being overly protective can prevent the individual from experiencing the natural consequences of their actions, which are crucial for motivation to change. As well, enablers may overlook or even try to rationalize the person's harmful behaviors or deny the seriousness of the addiction, contributing to the problem instead of encouraging for recovery. Family members might also trivialize the addiction itself, believing the person will grow out of it. This can minimize the urgency needed for the treatment. Just like managing the individual's responsibilities like work, finances, or even their own personal care can leave the person feeling less accountable for their recovery, as well as encourage dependency. Just like the making threats about stopping support or providing ultimatums and never following through can undermine the seriousness of the situation and prevent motivation for the individual. Now, the distinction between supportive and enabling behaviors is often nuanced, and it can be challenging for family members to recognize when they may be enabling rather than helping. While supportive behaviors promote growth and independence, enabling behaviors foster dependence and can perpetuate the cycle of addiction. Recognizing these differences is the first step towards creating a healthier environment that fosters recovery for the individual and well-being for the family unit. This understanding allows family members to engage in positive actions that bolster recovery while also protecting their own well-being. Now, understanding the nuanced distinctions between supportive behaviors and enabling behaviors is essential for families seeking to navigate the complex landscape of addiction and recovery. Next, we are going to examine some of these distinctions, like intentions versus outcomes. Starting with the supportive behaviors, most of the time the intentions are rooted in love, concern, and a genuine desire to see the individual recover and thrive. Supportive behaviors aims to lift the person up and empower them to face their challenges. These behaviors lead to positive outcomes, helping the individual develop coping skills, building resilience, and taking responsibility for their choices. Support provides a safety net in which the individual can grow without fear of judgment or failure. Now, in enabling behaviors, The intentions often stem from compassion and a deep-seated desire to protect the individual from pain or consequences. Enablers may mistakenly believe they are helping by preventing their loved ones from experiencing the hardships, but these behaviors have detrimental outcomes as they often allow the addiction to persist and may even exacerbate the situation. Enabling can create a cycle where the individual avoids necessary consequences, thereby reducing the motivation to seek help. The next nuanced one is going to be accountability versus avoidance. Now, with accountability, supportive family members encourage personal accountability. This means helping the individual recognize the impact of their choices, providing constructive feedback, and reinforcing the idea that they are responsible for their actions. An example of that would be like a family member might gently remind their loved one that, hey, you just missed an appointment, but at the same time assert that they take the ownership of their recovery journey by going, you missed your appointment, you need to call them and reschedule. Like that is on you. Like, I'm not going to do it for you because you need to take that responsibility. You missed the appointment, you reschedule it. As where on the other hand, with avoidance, enabling behaviors often involve avoiding the accountability altogether. See, when family members provide excuses or cover for the individual's behavior, they allow avoidance of the necessary consequences. Like, if an individual misses work due to substance use, an enabler might call the employer and say, hey, they're sick, they won't be making it in today. That is effectively shielding the loved one from facing the repercussions of their actions. The next one's going to be empowerment versus dependency. You see, supportive family members empower the individual by providing the resources, always being extremely encourageful, and providing multiple opportunities for growth. They foster a sense of autonomy and encourage the individual to take active steps in their recovery. As to where enabling behaviors, all they do is foster a sense of dependency on the family member. And this dependency can really hinder the individual's ability to develop their own coping mechanisms and make decisions independently. Like, if you're continuously providing financial support for substance purchases, that can lead to the individual to feel that they do not need to take responsibility for their finances or lifestyle changes, just like the natural consequences versus interventions. Supportive individuals recognize the importance of allowing the person to face natural consequences as a vital part of the learning and growth process. These consequences can often motivate individuals to make healthier choices, as to where enablers often intervene on behalf of the individual to prevent them from facing the natural consequences of their actions. This can be detrimental to the recovery process as the individual doesn't learn to adapt their behavior. And next is the healthy boundaries versus over-involvement. You see, supportive loved ones maintain healthy boundaries, recognizing that the individual must take responsibility for their lives. They know when to provide help and when to step back, encouraging the independence. As to where enablers can become overly involved, taking on responsibilities that rightfully belong to the individual. This can lead to a blurred line of responsibility and accountability and foster dependency. Lastly is long-term versus short-term solutions. Supportive behaviors is the focus on creating lasting change and building a foundation for continued recovery. Family members engage in actions that promote long-term healing rather than just temporary relief. As to where enabling often provides immediate relief to both the family member and the individual, but it fails to address the underlying issues. These short-term fixes ultimately perpetuate the cycle of addiction and stop genuine progress. Now, the distinctions between supportive and enabling behaviors hinge on the interplay of intentions, accountability, empowerment, consequences, boundaries, and the focus on long-term versus short-term solutions. Family members who are aware of these differences can better navigate the reactions and interventions, shifting from enabling to supportive behaviors that truly foster recovery. Creating an environment that not only promotes growth, accountability, but also a healthy independence. And that is essential for individuals facing addiction and ultimately leading to a more successful recovery. In addition to identifying supportive versus enabling behaviors, it is crucial to recognize how the family environment can foster growth and accountability. This impact on family dynamics is so profound as they play a critical role in the recovery process for individuals struggling. The various interactions, relationships, roles, and communication patterns within the family can significantly influence the outcomes of the treatment and recovery. Next, we're going to explore how family dynamics can impact the loved one's recovery. Starting off with communication patterns, like open versus closed communication. Families that foster open, honest communication create an environment where individuals feel safe expressing their struggles and emotions. As well, conversely, families with closed communications may suppress issues, leading to isolation, feelings of shame, and a whole lot of anger in the person seeking recovery. Now, we also have conflict resolution styles. So the ability to resolve conflicts constructively is crucial. See, families that utilize healthy conflict resolution techniques, such as active listening and seeking mutual understanding, can strengthen relationships and support recovery. Now, in contrast, families that engage in destructive conflict, such as blaming, yelling, or even avoidance, may intensify stress and anxiety for the individual in recovery and the family unit. Affirmation and validation is the last one for communication patterns. Families that provide affirmation and validation can help restore the self-esteem for the individual recovering. When the family members acknowledge and show that they support the efforts from the struggles of their loved ones, it enforces positive behaviors and motivates continued progress. Next, we'll get into the roles within the family system. Now, although we're only going to touch on 3 at this very moment, we're going to get into all of them later into this episode. We have the top 3, the identified patient role, codependency, and scapegoating. Often, the individual struggling with addiction becomes the identified patient or the focal point of the family issues. This role can lead to an unhealthy dynamic where other family members either enable the behavior or suppress their own needs to focus on the individual's recovery. And family members may develop codependent relationships where one member sacrifices their own needs and boundaries in order to manage or support the addicted individual. This dynamic can hinder their recovery, as it may prevent the individual from experiencing any natural consequences of their behavior. And lastly, in some families, the person with addiction may be blamed for all problems in the family unit, leading to a toxic environment that only perpetuates feelings of guilt and shame. This dynamic can be detrimental to recovery, as it discourages the individual from seeking help and promotes further disengagement and isolation. Next up, we'll be looking at the 3 support systems: emotional support, access to resources, and social support networks. All right. Families that provide emotional support by demonstrating understanding, compassion, and the encouragement can enhance an individual's motivation and resilience in recovery. Emotional support fosters a sense of belonging, which is crucial for individuals facing the loneliness that can accompany addiction. Families, though, can act as significant facilitators of recovery by providing access to resources such as professional treatment, support groups, or even educational materials about addiction. Their involvement in these processes can motivate the addicted individual to engage more actively with the recovery options. And lastly, the family can help maintain social connections that are integral to recovery. Engaging in healthy social activities with family members and friends can help reduce the isolation and stress, as well as providing new coping strategies and reinforce positive behaviors. Next is boundaries and expectations. You see, in setting boundaries, we're establishing our healthy boundaries because it is essential for the individual as well as the family unit. Supportive family members will respect the individual's space and autonomy, while also setting limits on behaviors that might be harmful. You see, clear boundaries can help prevent enabling behaviors, as well as empower the individual to take responsibility for their recovery. Just like realistic expectations, families need to have realistic expectations about recovery, understanding that setbacks may happen. Unrealistic expectations can lead to disappointment and frustration, while a supportive understanding of the recovery process only fosters patience and persistence. Just like coping mechanisms and behavioral models. All right. So family members serve as behavioral models for one another. Families that engage in healthy coping mechanisms, such as stress management techniques, open dialogue about emotional struggles, and seeking professional help, instill similar habits in the addicted individual, promoting healthier responses to challenges. Conversely, if a family routinely turns to unhealthy coping mechanisms, such as substance use, avoidance, or even aggression, these behaviors may be normalized for the individual in recovery, making it more challenging for them to develop and maintain healthier habits, just like cultural and societal influences. See, the families beliefs and attitudes towards addiction can significantly influence one's recovery. Families that embrace a stigmatized view of addiction may create an environment of shame and isolation for the individual, while those view it as a health issue, more or less, encourage more open dialogues and acceptance. Just like factors such as community norms, socioeconomic statuses, and available resources intersect with family dynamics and influence recovery. For instance, a family with access to a supportive community may benefit from additional resources and encouragement, while families facing societal stigmas may experience additional stressors that complicate the recovery. Next is relapse prevention and long-term recovery. See, a family member can play a vital role in relapse prevention just by being vigilant and aware of the potential triggers in the individual's environment. Constructive and open discussions about these triggers can help mitigate the risk of relapse. Now, after initial recovery, the ongoing support of family members is crucial for long-term success. You see, families that continue to engage in supportive behaviors foster an ongoing environment conducive to recovery, while those that revert to enabling behaviors post-treatment can jeopardize the individual's progress. Lastly, we're going to touch on the therapeutic interventions for families and family therapy. Engaging in family therapy can help identify and address unhealthy dynamics that may be impacting the recovery that y'all just aren't seeing on your own. Therapeutic interventions can also improve y'all's communication, strengthen the relationships, and teach healthy coping skills, as well as the education for family members. Providing education about addiction, its effects, and the recovery process can empower family members to understand how their behaviors may influence their loved one's recovery journey. You see, awareness can guide them towards supportive rather than enabling behaviors. Though family dynamics are a significant factor in the recovery process for individuals, effective communication, understanding roles, providing support, establishing your boundaries, and modeling behaviors through a cultural context and engaging in therapeutic interventions all contribute to the recovery ecosystem. A supportive family environment can enhance resilience and motivation, while unhealthy family dynamics can complicate recovery efforts. Now, some strategies aimed at improving family relationships and dynamics are vital components of effective addiction treatment and long-term recovery process. Though each family unit is unique, and recognizing their specific dynamics can lead to a more tailored and effective recovery strategies. Now, the roles that family members adopt in response to a loved one's addiction can have profound implications for the individual's journey toward recovery. These roles often arise out of a desire to cope with the chaos and emotional turmoil that addiction brings into the family system. Understanding these roles, such as the enabler, the hero, the scapegoat, the lost child, and the caretaker, can help recognize how they support or hinder the recovery process. So we're going to go in depth and explore these roles and their effects on recovery in the family unit, starting with the enabler. The enabler, often motivated by fear, guilt, or love, supports the addictive behaviors by removing the consequences, making excuses, or providing resources that enable continued substance use. Its impact on recovery: enabling behaviors prevent the addicted individual from experiencing the natural consequences of their actions. This lack of accountability can diminish motivation to change, as the individual may perceive that they can maintain their addiction without having to face the real-world repercussions. By continually providing support or shielding the individual from hardship, the enabler may inadvertently reinforce reliance on substances. This can make recovery more complicated, as the individual may not reach a point where they feel compelled to actually reach out and seek help. As well, enablers often experience significant emotional stress and burnout, which can render them less effective in providing support. This emotional instability can escalate conflicts and lead to breakdown in family dynamics, further complicating the recovery journey. Next is the hero. The hero, often the eldest child or another responsible family member, takes on the role of a high achiever to distract from the chaos caused by addiction. They may excel academically or manage family responsibilities to garner praise and stability. The hero's impact on recovery, though: the hero may develop reaction patterns that can shield them from the emotional turmoil of addiction, such as striving for perfection or suppressing their own needs. While this may help them cope, it can also encourage the idea that one can fix the family with achievements, ultimately undermining open, honest communication about the addiction. The hero often feels a burden to restore the family's reputation or dynamics, placing immense pressure on themselves. If the individual addicted to substances begins recovery, the hero may experience fits of jealousy or resentment, feeling overshadowed by the attention diverted to the recovery efforts. Just like its last impact is neglect of personal needs. The hero may struggle to attend to their own emotional and mental health needs, which can lead to feelings of neglect and burnout. If unaddressed, this can result in increased anxiety or depressive symptoms, as they continuously prioritize others over their own well-being. Next, we have the scapegoat. You see, the scapegoat serves as a target for family blame, often for the family's dysfunctions, including the addiction itself. They might exhibit their own behavioral issues or engage in risky activities, drawing attention away from the addiction. Now, the scapegoat's impact on recovery, starting with its distraction from issues. See, holding the scapegoat responsible for family problems can lead to a culture of blame that distracts from the real issues at play, including the addiction. Its next impact is its reinforcement of negative behaviors. The scapegoat may adopt maladaptive behaviors as a way to cope with the perceived role within the family, potentially exacerbating their issues and becoming further entrenched in the cycle of addiction or self-destructive behaviors. The last impact is its resistance to recovery. If the scapegoat sees themselves as undeserving of love or even support, they may resist seeking help or recovery, internalizing the blame put upon them and feeling hopeless in their entire situation. The next family role is the lost child. The lost child is often the quiet and withdrawn member of the family. They may disengage from family dynamics and seek solitude rather than engagement as a way to cope with the chaos around them. The lost child's impact on recovery starts with emotional isolation. The lost child may struggle with feelings of isolation and invisibility, which can prevent them from expressing their thoughts about the family's addiction. Their silence can exacerbate the family issues and prevent intervention or support. Its next impact is disappearing into distraction. See, this role may lead individuals to cope through escapism, such as excessive gaming, reading, or other solitary activities. While this might divert their attention from family issues, it can also foster detachment from reality, making it way harder to engage with recovery discussions. Now, its last impact on recovery is challenged relationships. See, their withdrawal can lead to deteriorating relationships with other family members who may perceive them as unsupportive or unavailable. This can result in feelings of discord within the family and further complicate the recovery process for the individual struggling with addiction. Lastly, we have the caregiver or the nurturer. See, the caregiver role involves a significant investment in taking care of the emotional and physical needs of others, possibly even at the expense of their own health, emotional and physical. Caregivers often try to manage the challenges within the family, helping everyone cope with the situation. Now, the caregiver's impact on recovery starts with role conflict. See, caregivers may feel conflicted when they are enabling unhealthy behaviors while trying to support the individual in recovery. This internal struggle can lead to guilt and confusion, complicating their ability to even provide a balanced support. The next impact is neglected self-care. See, this role can lead to resource depletion because caregivers often neglect their own physical and emotional needs, which will lead to burnout. If caregivers become incapacitated, then the individual struggling with addiction may lose a crucial part of their support system. Lastly is strained family relationships. See, caregivers might alienate their other loved ones when they prioritize the individual struggling with addiction. And this can lead to tension that escalates conflict rather than fosters the recovery, as the other family members feel like their needs are unacknowledged. Now, if we go into the implications for recovery, going into like the functional dynamics, it brings healthy patterns. See, in families where individuals are able to move beyond toxic roles, dynamics can shift towards functional family patterns. This includes shared responsibilities, mutual support, and open communication. Such an environment can significantly enhance recovery efforts for the individual and the family unit. Just like therapeutic interventions like family therapy, engaging in family therapy can help identify and address these dysfunctional roles. And through the therapeutic exploration, family members can learn to express their emotions honestly and in turn establish healthier boundaries and create a more supportive dynamic. Just like it encourages the role reassessment. See, therapeutic interventions is encouraging the family members to reevaluate their roles, and this can lead to greater awareness. Like, for instance, the enabler can learn to set boundaries and allow for natural consequences, while the hero can be encouraged to validate their own feelings of frustration and exhaustion. See, the various roles played by family members, including the enabler, the hero, the scapegoat, the lost child, and the caregiver, can significantly influence a loved one's journey towards recovery from addiction. These roles can either perpetuate the cycle of addiction or support the recovery process, depending on how they manifest within the family dynamic. But understanding these roles allows families to work together towards healthier interaction, promoting a supportive environment that can facilitate recovery. Families willing to engage in therapeutic processes to reassess their dynamics and encourage openness can create a more nurturing atmosphere for the individual undergoing recovery and ultimately leading to more successful outcomes. But by fostering an environment that encourages openness and reassessing family dynamics, families can significantly enhance the nurturing atmosphere needed for recovery. Equally important in this process are clear boundaries, which play a vital role in promoting healthy interactions and safeguarding the recovery journey. The importance of healthy boundaries? See, the need for clear boundaries in family dynamics, particularly in the context of recovery, cannot be overstated. See, boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships, protecting individual well-being, and establishing a secure environment conducive to healing and growth. The presence or absence of effective boundaries can significantly influence the recovery journey for the individual struggling and as well as the emotional health of family members. Now, next we are going to go into the various aspects and dimensions of the need for clear boundaries. Starting with, what are boundaries? See, boundaries define the limits of acceptable behavior and establishing where one person ends and the other begins. All right? They encompass emotional, physical, and psychological aspects, setting expectations around interactions and responsibilities within the relationship. Now, the importance of boundaries in relationships. Healthy boundaries are crucial for promoting self-respect, mutual respect, and accountability. They foster a sense of safety and autonomy, allowing individuals to express their feelings, needs, and desires without fear of judgment, manipulation, or even retribution. See, Boundaries are about protecting individual well-being. So, in the aspect of self-care and autonomy, establishing boundaries allows for family members to prioritize their own well-being. In the context of addiction, individuals can become overwhelmed by caregiving or enabler roles, leading to the burnout and emotional distress. With clear boundaries, it helps define your personal space, your time, and your emotional energy, enabling for self-care practices. And the importance in preventing enabling behaviors often stem from blurred boundaries, where the lines between support and irresponsibility become indistinct. But by setting clear boundaries, family members can avoid succumbing to guilt-driven decisions that allow the addicted individual to evade natural consequences, thereby fostering true accountability in the recovery process. Next, we'll list the two main things for fostering accountability through boundaries. See, it's encouraging responsibility. Boundaries are critical in holding individuals accountable for their actions. When family members refuse to enable destructive behavior, be that financial support, covering up, or even excuses, boundaries provide the individual with a clear understanding of the repercussions of their actions, just like promoting ownership of change. See, when boundaries are established, the individual struggling with addiction is encouraged to take ownership of their recovery. For example, a family might set a boundary around substance use, fostering an environment that supports abstinence while promoting the notion that recovery is the responsibility of the individual. Like, in other words, when I got out of prison, it was the boundaries here were if I touch another drug, then I'm excommunicated. And I wasn't taking that chance because I wasn't trying to go back to prison. So, next is in reducing codependency by distinguishing between support and control. Clear boundaries help to clarify the distinction between providing support and controlling behavior. In codependent relationships, one person may base their self-worth on another's success or failure, often seen in relationships involving addiction. But by setting boundaries, family members encourage healthier independence without falling into the traps of codependency, as well as it is encouraging individual growth. See, boundaries enable family members to pursue their own interests, hobbies, and relationships without feeling responsible for others' emotional states or failures. This healthy separation allows both the recovering individual and family members to grow independently and develop their identities outside of the addiction. Next, it helps with enhancing communication with clarity and honesty. See, establishing boundaries encourages open and honest communication. When family members articulate their limits and expectations clearly, it reduces the ambiguity and misunderstandings, facilitating discussions that are constructive rather than controversial, as well as fostering conflict resolution. See, boundaries create a structured framework for discussing issues that arise. By knowing what behaviors are unacceptable, family members can refer back to those boundaries during conflicts. shifting the conversation towards resolution rather than blame. Boundaries also assist in creating a safe environment, whether it be through psychological safety. See, clear boundaries contribute to a sense of psychological safety within the family. This safety allows family members to express their feelings, such as anger, fear, or even frustration, without the fear of repercussions. In a stable environment, individuals are more likely to openly discuss their struggles, including with addiction, or establishing a zone for recovery. See, in terms of recovery, clear boundaries create a recovery zone, both physically and emotionally, where there is no substance use and where support within the family structure is prioritized. This environment protects the recovering individual from potential triggers, creating a place where they can focus on their healing journey. Next, boundaries impactfulness is through the parental boundaries and the child impact through modeling healthy behaviors. See, when parents establish and maintain boundaries, they are in turn modeling healthy behaviors for their children. See, children learn about respect for personal space, as well as the importance of self care and how to communicate effectively, all of which are critical skills in facing challenges later in life, as well as avoiding the role confusion. Because in families with addiction, children may take on roles like the caregiver or scapegoat that are not suitable for their age or emotional maturity. Clear boundaries define appropriate roles for each member, preventing the confusion and emotional strain that can arise from role inversion, thereby allowing children to experience a more normalized family structure and stay children. Now, a few strategies for establishing boundaries. Identify your personal limits. See, family members should first reflect on their own needs and identify what they are comfortable living with and what they are not. This self-awareness is crucial for articulating boundaries. Next is communicate clearly. Once limits are identified, family members should express their boundaries in clear and direct language. It is important for boundaries to be communicated respectfully, taking care to avoid accusations or defensiveness, prompting the individual recovering to take their journey seriously and understand that their actions impact those around them. The next strategy is being consistent. Consistency is key in enforcing boundaries. Once established, family members must strive to uphold the boundaries without exception, sending a clear message about the expectations for behavior. Your next strategy is using I statements. Framing boundaries in terms of personal feelings can help reduce the defensiveness. For example, instead of saying, "You can't behave like this," a family member might say, "I feel unsafe when there's substances in our home." And then your next strategy is revisit and adjust. See, boundaries are not static. They may need to be revisited and adjusted as circumstances change. Keeping the lines of communication open and having regular family meetings can facilitate these discussions. See, the establishment of clear boundaries within family systems, particularly during the recovery from addiction, is of paramount importance. Boundaries protect individuals' well-being while fostering accountability, reducing codependency, creating a safe environment, and enhancing one's communication. By clearly defining acceptable behaviors and roles, family members can support recovery while also nurturing their own emotional health. This process of setting and maintaining boundaries is not without its challenges. It often requires reflection, courage, and sometimes very uncomfortable conversations. However, the long-term benefits of clear boundaries are invaluable, leading to healthier relationships, a more successful recovery process, and a stronger family unit overall. Setting healthy boundaries is a critical component of both individual and family well-being, particularly when navigating the turbulent waters of addiction and recovery. Boundaries, though, are the emotional, physical, and psychological limits that a person sets to protect their autonomy, integrity, and their overall mental health. By establishing and maintaining these boundaries, both the individual and their family members can find protection from emotional and physical harm in various ways. In recognizing the importance of boundaries for fostering well-being and growth, it's essential to understand how unhealthy relational dynamics can undermine these efforts. Codependency, in particular, poses significant challenges as it embodies an excessive reliance on another person for emotional support, self-esteem, and identity. Now, that brings us to our next little talking point on understanding codependency. Codependency is a complex relational dynamic characterized by an excessive reliance on another person for your emotional support, self-esteem, and your identity. It often emerges in family relationships, particularly where one family member is struggling with addiction, mental health issues, or another significant challenge. In these scenarios, codependency can lead to dysfunctional interactions that hinder the well-being of all involved and perpetuate unhealthy patterns. Next, we're going to explore the concept of codependency, its manifestations in family relationships, and the underlying psychological factors that contribute to this behavior. First, we'll start with defining codependency. See, codependency historically arose in discussions within and surrounding relationship behaviors, but has come to encompass a wide range of behaviors within addiction and recovery. See, some of the key characteristics of codependency include excessive people pleasing, low self-esteem, fear of abandonment, difficulty setting boundaries, and lastly, control issues. See, in excessive people pleasing, individuals often prioritize the needs and desires of others over their own, seeking approval and validation through the act of caretaking. In low self-esteem, codependent individuals frequently struggle with feelings of worthlessness and inadequacy and may believe that their value is tied to their ability to care for or please others. As in fear of abandonment, a pervasive fear of rejection or abandonment often drives codependent behavior. Individuals may go to great length to maintain relationships, even at the cost of their own well-being. In the aspect of difficulty setting boundaries, codependent individuals often struggle to establish and communicate their own needs and limits, leading to feelings of being overwhelmed or taken advantage of. And lastly, in the aspect of control issues, codependent relationships may involve a desire to control the behaviors of others, often as a misguided attempt to avoid chaos or ensure stability. This can manifest as manipulation or even enabling. Now, as we go into the psychological roots of codependency, you see, codependency typically stems from early experiences in childhood, often originating from dysfunctional family dynamics. Several factors contribute to the development of codependent behaviors, such as role reversal, emotional neglect, modeling from parents, and or chronic issues, illnesses, or trauma. In role reversal, children and families with addiction or significant emotional struggles often take on adult responsibilities, such as caregiving, which can lead to role confusion. They learn to derive a sense of worth from fulfilling those roles, setting a stage for codependency. In emotional neglect, families that fail to validate or attend to a child's emotional needs may inadvertently encourage codependency. Children may grow up believing their emotions are not important, leading them to prioritize the feelings of others over their own. In modeling from parents, children may observe codependent behaviors in their parents and learn to emulate these patterns in their own relationships, perpetuating this cycle. Lastly, in chronic illness or trauma, families dealing with chronic illness, trauma, or dysfunction often breed codependency as members attempt to manage the emotional fallout. This leads to unhealthy attachment styles that persist into adulthood. Now, when we go into the manifestations of codependency, especially in family relationships, codependency can manifest in various ways within family relationships. And we're going to give you a couple patterns that are common. So starting off, we have parent-child codependency. All right. So over caretaking. One parent may take on the role of primary caretaker to the extent that they neglect their own needs, becoming overly involved in the child's life. This dynamic can prevent the child from developing independence and self-reliance. In regards to fulfilling the emotional needs, a parent may rely on their children for emotional support, treating the child as a confidant instead of providing age-appropriate guidance. The child might feel pressured to manage their parents' emotional need instead of focusing on their own development. And lastly, for the parent-child codependency is shaming or guilt tripping. See, the parent may manipulate the child emotionally, creating feelings of guilt or obligation about their own needs or desires. This can stifle the child's ability to assert themselves or form healthy boundaries. Next is the siblings in codependent relationships, like caretaking roles. See, siblings may take on caretaking roles, especially if one sibling is struggling with a mental health condition or addiction. And the responsible sibling may suppress their own needs to support the troubled sibling, leading to burnout, as well as conflict avoidance. See, siblings may avoid discussing issues instead of opting to maintain peace at the expense of honest communication. And this can perpetuate resentment and unresolved emotional issues. And lastly, we have the marital codependency with enabling behaviors. See, a spouse may enable a partner's unhealthy behaviors like substance abuse, poor financial decisions, gambling, who knows, in the name of love or support, preventing the sick partner from facing the consequences of their actions and in turn actually going to get help. And then we have the loss of identity. See, in codependent marriages, one partner may lose their sense of self, often defining their identity through their partner's needs, struggles, and successes. And this can lead to feelings of emptiness and a lack of direction in life. And lastly, in marital codependency is the avoiding of personal growth. See, the fear of straining the relationship may prevent either partner from pursuing personal interests, friendships, or even therapy, perpetuating the cycle of reliance. We're going to go into the consequences of codependency. See, codependent relationships often lead to several detrimental outcomes, both for the individual involved and for the family dynamics as a whole. The three main consequences are emotional burnout, dysfunctional family dynamics, and impaired relationships. See, an emotional burnout, constantly prioritizing others' needs, can lead to the emotional exhaustion, anxiety, and depression in the codependent individual. As to where in the dysfunctional family dynamics, codependency perpetuates cycles of chaos, enabling unhealthy behaviors, and can ultimately lead to conflict, resentment, and the breakdown of communication among all family members. And lastly, in impaired relationships, it's hindering your future relationships because all future relationships can be severely impacted, leading to difficulties forming healthy attachments and fostering trust. See, individuals may replicate codependent dynamics in their friendships and workplaces and even romantic relationships. Now, we're going to go into breaking the cycle of codependency. Addressing and overcoming codependency involves recognizing these patterns and making conscious efforts to change them. And we will go through some strategies like self-awareness and education, recognizing the patterns. The first step in overcoming codependency is recognizing the signs and acknowledging how these behaviors are impacting your relationships. Education about codependency can provide so much insight on how relational patterns develop. And then go setting your healthy boundaries and learn to say no. See, developing the ability to say no and setting limits is crucial for both parties. Clear boundaries define and lay the line where one person's responsibility ends and the other's begin. Just like it helps with building self-esteem through self-care practices. See, engaging in activities that promote self-worth, such as your hobbies, therapy, or even connecting with supportive friends, can help codependent individualism reclaim their sense of identity. Individual therapy, working with a mental health professional can provide tools and coping strategies, helping the individuals understand their patterns and build healthier relational skills, as well as developing independence, en- encouraging autonomy. For family members, fostering an environment that encourages independence is essential. This can mean allowing the individual in recovery to face consequences or learn from failures without rushing to provide support. See, lastly is going to be the relational therapy. Okay? If need be, hit up family counseling. Family therapy can be so beneficial in addressing codependent dynamics. It allows open dialogue, promotes understanding, and facilitates healthier ways of interacting within the family system. Codependency is a pervasive and often harmful relational dynamic that can have significant implications for family relationships. Practically, in the context of addiction and mental health struggles, prioritizing the needs of others at the expense of their own well-being, individuals can perpetuate the cycle of dysfunction that hinders personal growth and healthy communication. Recognizing the signs of codependency, understanding its psychological roots, and actively working to establish healthier boundaries will benefit not only the individual in recovery, but the entire family unit. Breaking the cycle of codependency fosters an environment of support, respect, and emotional resilience, enabling all family members to thrive collectively and independently. See, codependency is characterized by an unhealthy dependence on another person, primarily emerging from a desire for approval and emotional substance that often leads to dysfunctional patterns. Understanding the signs of codependency and its effects on everyone involved is essential for recognizing these dynamics and navigating towards healthier relationships. We're going to go over a few signs of codependency, as well as their impacts on individuals and their respective relationships. So, in the first section of the signs of codependency are the emotional indicators, like low self-esteem, fear of abandonment, and difficulty identifying one's emotions. In low self-esteem, they are persistent feelings of worthlessness and inequity often drive the need for validation through caretaking or enabling behaviors. Individuals may seek others' approval to feel valuable, leading to a negative self-image. In fear of abandonment, it's an intense fear of being alone or rejected can cause individuals to tolerate unhealthy behaviors and maintain relationships. This fear can manifest as anxiety regarding relationships and a heightened sensitivity to perceived signs of separation. Now, in difficulty of identifying emotions, codependent individuals often struggle to identify and express their own feelings, focusing instead on the emotions and needs of others. This confusion can lead to emotional numbness, where their own feelings are minimized. The next section of signs is in behavioral indicators, like people pleasing, caretaking, enabling, and control issues. In people pleasing, it's a constant need to make others happy, often at the expense of one's own needs and preferences. See, individuals may go through to extreme lengths to avoid conflict or disapproval, even sacrificing their own happiness. Now, in caretaking, over-involvement in another person's life, particularly in trying to manage their problems or emotions, often manifests as a misguided sense of responsibility. Individuals may believe that their worth is only tied to their ability to fix others or solve their problems. As where we have in enabling, behaviors that support or facilitate another's unhealthy habits under the guise of support. This includes making excuses for their behaviors or even covering up the negative consequences. Now, lastly, in control issues, that's a tendency to try and control or manage others' behaviors and actions to create a sense of stability or predictability. This may also include manipulation tactics to ensure others behave in ways that align with the codependent individual's comfort level. Now, in interpersonal dynamics, we have the relationship imbalance, communication difficulties, and isolation. Now, in relationship imbalance, that is a pattern of unequal give and take where one person constantly sacrifices their needs for the other. Codependent individuals often feel overwhelmed by or responsible for the emotions and problems of those around them. Now, by communication difficulties, avoidance of open communication about feelings and needs, resulting in misunderstandings and tensions. See, individuals may resort to passive-aggressive behaviors or indirect communication as a mean of expressing frustration. Now, lastly, through isolation, a tendency to isolate oneself from friends and family in favor of focusing solely on the individual with whom they are codependent. As a result, support networks diminish, leading to further reliance on the codependent relationship. Next, we will be looking at the effects of codependency on individuals involved. See, the effects on codependent individuals, we'll look at the top three. So, emotional distress, the loss of identity, and the difficulty in managing relationships. So, the codependent individual, through emotional distress, the individual may experience chronic anxiety, depression, and feelings of inequity as they prioritize others' needs over their own. This distress can manifest as emotional burnout, fatigue, or even a sense of emptiness. Now, in the terms of loss of identity, the codependent individual may lose sight of their own interests, desires, and personal goals, resulting in a diminished sense of self. Decisions are often based on what will please others rather than what is personally fulfilling. Now, lastly, in the difficulty managing relationships of the codependent individual, challenges in establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries led to relational dysfunctions and a lack of emotional safety. In turn, it's the ability to assert needs and perpetuate cycles of resentment and conflict. Now, the effects on the dependent individual is lack of accountability, impeded personal growth, increased tension in the relationship. So, through lack of accountability, the dependent individual may avoid facing the consequences of their actions due to the enabling and caretaking behaviors of their codependent counterpart. This can lead to a continuation of negative behaviors such as substance use or emotional dependency. Now, the impeded personal growth of the dependent individual, the failure to confront challenges or failures can stunt the personal development and recovery efforts. The dependent individual may become overly reliant on the codependent person for emotional support, hindering their ability to cope independently. Lastly, the increased tension in the relationship for the codependent individual. See, the codependent behaviors can create stress and conflict within the relationships, as the dependent person may feel smothered or controlled. This tension can provoke resentment on both sides, ultimately harming the bond. Now, lastly, the effects of codependency on the family system is three major categories: the dysfunctional family dynamics, the reduced ability to function independently, and the generalizational patterns. Starting with the dysfunctional family dynamics, you see, codependency can lead to family environment marked by chaos, emotional instability, and a lack of healthy communication. See, family members may develop their own codependent patterns, creating a cycle of dysfunction that is perpetuated across multiple relationships. Now, in the aspect of reduced ability to function independently, the children of codependent individuals may grow up in environments that are lacking autonomy and self-reliance, mirroring the dysfunctional behaviors that they observed growing up. This can lead to future relational issues, as they may develop similar codependent behaviors in their own relationships. Now, in the aspects of generational patterns, codependency can be transmitted across generations. As children learn unhealthy coping mechanisms and relational dynamics from their parents, this dynamic can create a long-term cycle of emotional dysfunction that affects the entire family relationships over time. See, codependency is a pervasive and often detrimental dynamic that impacts not just the individuals directly involved, but also the broader family system. Recognizing the signs of codependency is essential for initiating change and fostering healthy relational patterns. By addressing the underlying issues, individuals can break free from codependent behaviors, paving the way for healthier emotional and relational growth. Effective interventions such as therapy and family counseling can provide the necessary tools and support to navigate these complexities and foster resilience and well-being for everyone involved. As effective interventions lay the groundwork for resilience and support among family members, they pave the way for meaningful dialogue. Consequently, open and honest communication becomes essential, serving as a cornerstone of healthy family relationships that greatly influence emotional well-being and overall family functioning. The role of communication. Open and honest communication is a cornerstone of healthy family relationships, significantly impacting emotional well-being, relational dynamics, and overall family functioning. Next, we're going to explore some of its significance. See, through building trust and safety and a foundation of trust, honest communication fosters an environment of trust. When family members feel they can express themselves openly without fear of judgment or retaliation, they are more likely to share their true thoughts and feelings, as well as if it's an emotional safety. See, open communication creates a space that is safe where family members can discuss vulnerable topics, navigate conflicts, and express emotions. This emotional safety encourages deeper connection and strengthens bonds. It also enhances the emotional intelligence by providing understanding and empathy. Open discussions allow family members to articulate their feelings and expressions, promoting understanding and empathy towards one another. When family members take the time to listen and validate each other's emotions, it cultivates emotional intelligence as well as conflict resolution, because honest communication is vital in addressing conflicts constructively. It enables family members to resolve disagreements effectively, preventing misunderstandings nor harboring resentment. They foster communication, connection, and bonding. See, through the roles of communication, you are making stronger relationships. Through regular open communication, it's strengthening your family relationships by promoting shared experiences, goals, and values. It encourages family members to engage with one another and take an interest in each other's lives. Because, see, when families prioritize open communication, they also create opportunities for meaningful conversations, which can lead to deeper connections and a sense of belonging, as well as encouraging the healthy boundaries. See, you're articulating one's needs through the effective communication, and that is crucial for setting and respecting boundaries, because in this clarity, it helps prevent the misunderstanding and promotes mutual respect as well as empowerment. Just like building problem-solving skills, such as collaborative solutions. This teamwork fosters a sense of collective responsibility and equips members with effective problem-solving skills, as well as adaptability. See, open communication not only helps collaborate solutions, but it helps families adapt to changes more readily, as members can discuss transitions and challenges together. making it easier to navigate new situations. As well as it helps cultivate emotional awareness and growth through expressing your vulnerabilities, modeling healthy communication. And then next is reducing the anxiety and uncertainty through clarity in your relationships and addressing concerns promptly. See, open communication not only helps honest discussions and reduces the ambiguity in relationships by fostering clarity, but it also encourages discussing concerns before they even escalate into larger issues, which in turn reduces the stress and emotional turmoil within the family. Just like promoting accountability and responsibility, owning one's actions as well as learning from mistakes. See, families that communicate honestly create an environment where mistakes can be discussed and learned from rather than hidden and ignored, fostering growth and resilience, just like improving the overall family dynamics. Through open communication, you receive a cohesive family unit as well as a positive family culture. Because open and honest communication contributes to a cohesive family unit where members feel valued, supported, and understood. It also helps families prioritize open communication to foster a culture of positivity and resilience, helping everyone navigate life's challenges with greater ease and mutual support. Open and honest communication is fundamental in nurturing healthy, supportive, and resilient family relationships by fostering trust, emotional safety, and mutual respect. Families can enhance their overall quality of life, enrich their connections, and equip themselves with the tools needed to navigate challenges. Establishing a culture of open dialogue not only strengthens current family dynamics, but also lays the foundation for future relationships and emotional well being across generations. Ultimately, it empowers all family members to express themselves fully, leading to deeper understanding and stronger bonds, which are vital for a harmonious family life. See, engaging in the effective dialogue about addiction, recovery, and shared feelings can be a sensitive yet crucial process for individuals and families affected by substance use or mental disorders. Open communication fosters understanding, empathy, and support, which are essential for healing and recovery. Next are some detailed strategies to facilitate such discussions, like create a safe space, choose the right time and place, then establish your ground rules, set your guidelines for the discussion, and then encourage honesty while ensuring that all family members feel safe to express their feelings. Then use open-ended questions, foster exploration. Be like, what do you feel has been the hardest parts of your journey? How do you feel about the support you've received from us? And then promote sharing. Be like, what thoughts come to your mind when you think about your experiences? Can you share what you need from us to feel supported in your recovery? And then practice active listening. Demonstrate empathy. Provide verbal affirmations such as, I understand, or that sounds really challenging. And then show genuine interest by nodding and using the affirming language. And then reflect and clarify. Paraphrase what you just heard to ensure understanding and demonstrate your engagement. And then ask clarifying questions like, can you explain that a bit more, how that made you feel? Or when you paraphrase, be like, so what I'm hearing is it is like this, or this, and that allows them to help break it down to a level that you can understand. And then share your personal feelings. Okay? Use I statements. Encourage the family member to express their feelings and concerns. Be like, I feel worried when I see you struggling. Or I feel sad when I think about the challenges you faced. And then acknowledge the concerns. All right? Ensure that everyone acknowledges their feelings about the addiction and recovery. This can help in understanding the broader emotional impact on the family. And then educate about the addiction and recovery process. Share information. Provide the nature of addiction, the recovery process, and the challenges involved. All right? This can help reduce the stigma and demystify the addiction and all. Consider sharing resources like books and articles, which we will share a couple of here coming up, and then discuss the common misconceptions. Address and concern the common myths surrounding addiction, such as the belief that addiction is a moral failing and can be overcome by solely willpower, or that it's just a phase and oh, they're not truly addicted, they're just being lazy. Like, help break the stigma. And then encourage shared responsibility. Involve the whole family. Highlight the importance of family involvement, emphasizing that addiction affects the entire family unit. Discuss ways in which the family members can support in recovery, setting boundaries, and maintaining open lines of communication. And then create a support plan. Collaborate. Develop a plan for support that includes everyone's input, detailing specific ways the family members can contribute in the recovery process. Discuss the potential triggers and how the family can work to create a supportive environment and try to minimize the amount of triggers that can get into the area. And then address the relapse and challenges positively. Prepare for the setbacks. You got to acknowledge that relapse can be part of the recovery process and approach the topic with understanding rather than blame. Discuss the feelings and the circumstances that led to the relapse. Focus on strategies to address them as a family, and then stay solution oriented. When you're discussing the setbacks, focus on solutions and learning from experiences rather than dwelling on failures. This keeps the conversation constructed and prevents the individual from trying to express these issues to y'all later on. And then reinforce the positive behaviors and progress. Celebrate all forms of success. Regularly acknowledge and celebrate the milestones with them, whether they're large or small, particularly the small ones, because those are the biggest. Truly, I can't stress that enough. The smallest achievements are the biggest ones in our eyes. And then, if necessary, seek professional support, whether it be family therapy or counseling, even support groups. That's for both of y'all. There's many family support groups, and I will be sharing them with y'all here. And then practice your self-care. Prioritize your well-being. Remember and remind all of your family members, including those in recovery, of the importance of self-care. Encourage activities that promote physical and emotional health, and then discuss the necessity of setting aside time to process their feelings and practice mindfulness or engage in hobbies that foster relaxation. And then acknowledge the emotional toll. Recognize and validate the emotional toll addiction takes on the involved. Encouraging open discussions about feelings can relieve some of the burdens family members carry. So, in conclusion of all of that, engaging in effective dialogue about recovery, addiction, and sharing feelings is an ongoing process that requires patience, empathy, and commitment from all parties involved. By implementing these strategies, families can foster meaningful conversations that lead to deeper understanding, support, and healing. Ultimately, open communication strengthens family bonds and enhances the potential for lasting recovery and emotional well-being for all involved. See, in reinforcing the importance of open communication for fostering recovery, it's equally crucial to empower the family members with knowledge. Educating families about addiction and recovery processes not only deepens their understanding and compassion, but also fortifies the support that is essential for a successful healing journey. And that's where we go into our last segment, which is educating the families. See, advocating for the education of family members about addiction and recovery processes is essential in fostering understanding, compassion, and support in the healing journey. So, here's an approach to effectively advocate for this crucial education. Raise awareness for the issues. You first got to understand the impact of addiction. So we can try to host informational sessions or workshops that outline the biological, psychological, and even social aspects of addiction, emphasizing on how it affects both the individual and the family unit. We can also share the statistics and research findings that highlight the prevalence of addiction and its impact on families, underscoring their need for education. As well as we can share our own personal stories, use testimonials or case studies that illustrate real-life experience of families dealing with addiction. Encourage the families affected by addiction to share their stories in appropriate forms, emphasizing the importance of connection and understanding. Next, you can develop educational resources, create educational materials, compile a whole bunch of brochures, flyers, or even pamphlets that provide concise information about addiction and recovery. And then include the topics such as the sciences behind addiction and the signs of substance use disorders in the recovery process, and just leave them out with books in the bathrooms, at truck stops, just spread them everywhere. Or even utilize the tools in social media. Collaborate with local organizations. That's what I'm going to end up trying to do, is collaborate with local addiction treatment centers and mental health organizations, as well as support groups, to provide families with comprehensive educational and resources. And then advocate for policy changes, engage with your local policymakers to advocate for policies that support family education and programs within the community health initiatives. This may include funding for workshops or educational materials that address addiction issues, as well as mental health issues. And then promote school-based programs. And then finally, encourage the family participation. Promote your whole family to get involved in it. The more, the merrier. Advocating for the education of family members about addiction and recovery processes is vital for creating supportive environments for individuals on their healing journeys, especially those that are still lost in it. But by promoting awareness and organizing educational initiatives, or even collaborating with local organizations, helps foster understanding. And families can better navigate the complexities of addiction through education. And though families not only gain knowledge, but it also helps empower themselves to be more active participants in their family members' recovery, promoting the healing and resilience within the family unit. Now, understanding the nature of addiction is crucial for families, allowing them to comprehend what their loved ones are going through, in turn fostering empathy and enabling them to respond more appropriately to the challenges posed by substance use disorders. So, next, I'm going to give you a slightly detailed overview that will cover various aspects of addiction, including the definition, the causes, some effects, and the implications for the family dynamics. Starting with the definition, if we go with definition A, which is a disease of the brain, addiction is classified as a chronic brain disease characterized by compulsive drug-seeking, continued use despite harmful consequences, and long-lasting changes in the brain associated with impulse control, judgment, and stress response. The second definition B, is substance use disorders, or SUDS. The term encompasses a variety of harmful behaviors associated with the use of substances, including alcohol, illicit drugs, and prescription medications. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM-5, outlines criteria for diagnosing SUDS, focusing on patterns of behavior and physical dependence. Next is the neurobiological basis of addiction. A, the brain chemistry. So, addiction affects the neurotransmitter system in the brain. For example, substances may artificially increase levels of dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter, leading to heightened feelings of pleasure. Over time, the brain adapts, requiring more of the substance to achieve that same effect, which would be classified as tolerance. B is the brain structure. So, prolonged substance use can alter brain structures that control decision-making, impulse control, and stress responses. This often results in impaired judgment and increased susceptibility to cravings and relapse. Now, in the genetic factors of the neurobiological basis, the genetics predispositions play a role in the likelihood of developing an addiction. Family histories of substance use disorders can indicate a higher risk due to inherited traits and vulnerabilities. Now we go into the causes of addiction, starting with the environmental influences. Factors such as family dynamics, peer pressure, socioeconomic status, and exposure to addiction in the community or family can influence the risk of developing an addiction. In the psychological factors, the underlying mental health issues, such as depression, anxiety, or trauma, can contribute to the development of addiction, as individuals may use substances as a coping mechanism. Lastly, in its developmental stages, adolescence is often a critical period when the likelihood of experimenting with substances increases, with early exposure linked to a higher risk of developing addiction later in life. Next would be the behavioral aspects of addiction. Compulsive behavior. Individuals with addiction often engage in compulsive behaviors, prioritizing substance use over other important aspects of life, such as work, relationships, and responsibilities. And that leads us into the denial, because denial is a common feature of addiction. Those struggling may refuse to acknowledge the severity of their substance use, seeing it as a personal choice rather than a disorder. And then we go into, lastly, the withdrawal symptoms. Physical dependence develops over time, and withdrawal symptoms can occur when substance use is reduced or stopped. This can include symptoms such as anxiety, irritability, nausea, and tremors, making the cessation sensations extremely challenging. The effects of addiction on individuals and families, the impact on relationships. Addiction can lead to strained relationships within the family, mostly due to broken trust, conflict, and even emotional turmoil. Families often feel a range of emotions, including frustration, anger, sadness, and most importantly, helplessness. B is the financial strain. See, the cost of maintaining a substance use disorder can lead to significant financial strain on the individual and the families. And this can result in legal issues, job loss, and debt. The last one would be the emotional well-being. See, family members may experience a range of emotional responses, including anxiety, depression, and isolation. And it's common for families to feel shame or even the stigma which can prevent them from seeking support or even trying to assist in supporting their loved one. Now, recovery and addiction both have stages like a cycle. So, understanding that addiction is often a cycle process can help families navigate the ups and downs. Because for addiction, the cycle includes the initial use, the increased use leading to the negative consequences, and then the physical and psychological dependence develops. And then finally, the addiction, which equals out to the loss of control and compulsive substance-seeking behavior. Now, advertently, recovery has stages, and that's the pre-contemplation. The individual may not recognize they have a problem yet. Then they start to think about the consequences of their substance use and start contemplating whether they have an issue. And then when they figure out they do have an issue is the preparation stage, where they start planning for a change and start planning to seek help. And then next is the actual action, where they are actively working towards recovery, which may involve therapy or just a support group. And then maintenance, sustaining recovery while dealing with the triggers and cravings. Now, the effective family response to addiction would be to educate themselves. See, family members should seek out education about addiction to understand the complexities and the challenges involved, because the knowledge can dispel the myths and foster empathy. And then approach with compassion. It is essential to approach the loved one with compassion rather than judgment, because a supportive environment encourages open dialogue. And then establish your clear boundaries. Families should set clear and healthy boundaries regarding the behaviors and consequences. This helps maintain the personal well-being and prevents enabling behavior. And then, if needed, encourage professional help. Families should encourage their loved ones to seek out professional treatment and support This may involve therapy, just support groups, or even a rehabilitation program if it's gone so far. And then lastly, practice your self-care. Family members also need to prioritize their well-being, engaging in self-care activities, joining their own support groups for families of individuals with addiction, and seeking professional counseling can be beneficial. The lasting impact of addiction awareness is it builds a stronger family. See, through the understanding and acceptance, the families can enhance their resilience and improve their overall dynamics, fostering a supportive environment for recovery and reducing the stigma. By educating yourselves and others about addiction, families can contribute to the reducing the stigma associated with substance use disorder, advocating for a more compassionate community space. And lastly, fostering lasting change. Promoting a culture of recovery within the family encourages ongoing dialogue, support, and healing, enabling lasting change for the individual and the family system. See, understanding the multifaceted nature of addiction equips families with the knowledge and tools necessary to support their loved ones more effectively. By fostering empathy and open communication, families can create an environment that is conducive to recovery while also addressing their own needs and well-being throughout the process. This holistic understanding ultimately helps break the cycle of addiction as well as the stigma, enabling healthier relationships and the possibility of lasting recovery. By fostering this holistic understanding of addiction, families can create an environment that supports lasting recovery and healthier relationships. A vital aspect of this support is encouraging self-care for the family members, as it empowers them to prioritize their own well-being while navigating the challenges of their loved ones' recovery journey. See, encouraging the self-care for families, it is crucial for the family members of individuals struggling, as it empowers them to maintain their own emotional, mental, and physical well-being while being able to support their loved ones through their recovery process. See, when families prioritize self-care, they not only enhance their own resilience, but also create a more supportive environment for their loved ones. Next, we're going to explore a little bit on the importance of self-care for family members. The importance of self-care for family members is its emotional resilience. See, understanding the emotional turmoil and even preventing the burnout, as well as the enhanced support for loved ones. See, you can maintain the clarity as well as continue modeling your healthy behaviors by prioritizing your self-care. You also get better relationships with reduced friction and strengthened connections, which in turn improves your physical health. Chronic stress can manifest physically through headaches, fatigue, digestive issues, or even cardiovascular problems. So regular self-care practices can reduce the stress and improve your overall health, enabling family members to be more present and active, as well as the empowerment and control by taking charge. See, self-care is an act of empowerment. By focusing on one's own needs, family members can regain a sense of control in an often chaotic situation, helping to alleviate feelings of helplessness, as well as managing your emotional well-being, being able to acknowledge your feelings. See, you got to be able to validate your emotions and avoid self-blame. You got to understand that addiction is a disease and it is not the family member's fault. Okay? You have to recognize this, as it can help alleviate the feelings of guilt or inadequacy. And then set boundaries. Set your defining limits. Establish clear boundaries. And then it's also protecting the time and space for yourself. And then you, if need be, go out and seek the professional support. Now, some practical self-care strategies is regular exercise. Okay? Set a schedule. Get into it. Nutrition and sleep. Prioritizing a balanced diet and a sufficient sleep is vital, as family members should aim for meals rich in nutrients, and establish a regular sleep routine to ensure restorative rest. All right. Then you got to focus on your emotional self-care. You got to work on your mindfulness and practice your meditation, deep breathing exercises, yoga, meditation mostly. Like, that's the best one. You can do so much with meditation. And then use creative outlets if you need, such as writing, gardening, music, or even painting. It just means it's just a way to serve as an emotional release and a means of self-expression. Just like your social self-care, you got to spend time with supportive people, all right? Engage with your supportive friends and your other supportive family members who can provide understanding and support without judgment. And that is in turn building a robust support network that can alleviate the feelings of isolation. And then your mental self-care, you got to educate yourself about addiction and then use positive affirmations. Just practice them. Practicing self-affirmation can help reinforce your self-worth, and it will remind you daily of your strengths, capabilities, and the importance of self-care. See, the long-term strategies for sustaining self-care is just getting a routine established, all right? Daily self-care rituals, make them flexible yet structured, all right? And reevaluate and assess your needs regularly. Come back on check-ins and then adjust it if necessary. Acknowledge that needs may change over time and be willing to adapt self-care practices accordingly. And then practice your gratitude. Just maintaining a journal to log things for which you're grateful can shift your focus from negative emotions to a more positive experiences. And it's this perspective that can enhance your emotional resilience. See, self-care is not selfish. It is necessary, and it is a necessary component of emotional well-being, especially for family members that are supporting loved ones in any form of recovery. By actively engaging in self-care practices, families can ensure that they do not deplete their own emotional resources, allowing them to maintain healthier relationships that give them the ability to provide effective support. The journey of recovery is challenging for both the individual struggling as well as their families. But by prioritizing self-care, it empowers family members as well as fosters resilience and ultimately contribute to a more supportive environment that is conducive to healing and growth. Acknowledging the challenges of recovery, prioritizing self-care equips family members with the resilience that is needed to navigate this journey. To further enhance their ability to provide support, families should seek out resources that can help them build a robust support system amid the emotional turmoil they face. And that leads us into our actual last segment of this podcast, which is going to be the resources for families. See, families supporting loved ones with addiction face a unique set of challenges and emotional turmoil. Seeking help and building a support system are vital for their well-being and ability to support their loved ones effectively. So Next, we are going to go over a few resources, including support groups, along with some actual books and articles. So, starting with support groups for families, support groups offer a community of understanding and shared experiences for families affected by addiction. They provide a safe space to discuss feelings, receive advice, and connect with others in similar situations. The first support group we have is AI Anon Family Groups. So that is, let me stop myself here. All of these resources and websites that I am going to be listing, besides the books, will be listed in our Discord page in the resource channel under Family Resources. All right. AI Anon Family Groups is a well-known support group for families and friends of individuals struggling with alcohol addiction. It operates on a similar 12-step program to AA. Its benefits: attendees share experiences, provide encouragement, and find understanding, helping each other cope with the challenges of having a loved one with alcohol use disorder. Our next group is NAR-Anon Family Groups. Now, NAR-Anon is a support group for families and friends of people who are struggling with drug addictions, and it is following a similar 12-step model as NA, Narcotics Anonymous. Its benefits is a confidential environment enabling families to express their feelings and learn about addiction and share coping strategies. Next, we have Smart Recovery Family and Friends. Smart Recovery provides a science-based alternative for those affected by substance use disorders. Their Family and Friends program focuses on offering tools and resources for families. So their benefits: the program offers meeting and resources focused on mutual support, sharing skills, and practical tools for coping and communication. Last, for support groups, we have Families Anonymous. Now, Families Anonymous is a 12-step program for family members and friends of individuals who are using and abusing drugs and or alcohol. Families Anonymous meetings offer a space to discuss feelings and experiences, receiving support from others who understand addiction's impact on the family dynamics. Next, we have online resources and articles. All right. Addiction resource websites would be Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA.gov. They provide resources for families, including treatment locators, educational materials, and support services. We next have the National Institute on Drug Abuse, or NIDA. Their website is drugabuse.gov. They offer extensive information and research on substances, addiction, treatment options, and resources for families. Next, we have Partnership to End Addiction. Website is drugfree.org. The organization provides support, resources, and advocacy for families dealing with addiction. They offer a variety of tools, including helplines, educational materials, and family support programs. Our next addiction website resource is Shatterproof. That is shatterproof.org. Shatterproof provides evidence-based resources for families, advocacy efforts to change addiction treatment centers, and tools to find treatment and support for loved ones struggling with addiction. Now, our last one, oh wait, no, it's not our last one. We got two more. So our next one is Mayo Clinic. So Mayo Clinic. That is mayoclinic.org. The Mayo Clinic offers detailed information on drug addiction, including signs, symptoms, treatment options, and advice for families seeking to support a loved one in recovery. Now, our last website is the Recovery Village. So, therecoveryvillage.com. The Recovery Village provides a comprehensive library of articles, guides, and resources for families dealing with addiction. Their website includes information on various substances, treatment approaches, and strategies for supporting a loved one through recovery. Next, I'm going to list off a few books and literature that I believe almost everybody should read. And I'm probably going to butcher some of their last names. So I apologize in advance if you ever watch this podcast and hear me butcher your name. Asawi. First up, we have Codependence No More by Melody Beattie. This book provides insight into codependency and offers strategies for families to reclaim their lives and cope with better addiction. Our next book is going to be Beyond Addiction: How Science and Kindness Helps People Change by Jeffrey Foote, Carrie Wilkins, and Nicole Kostnicki. This book offers a compassionate and scientifically grounded approach to helping loved ones with addiction, focusing on positive communication and support. Next book is going to be Beautiful Boy: A Father's Journey Through His Son's Addiction by David Sheff. A deep memoir that details a father's experience with his son's addiction, offering insights into the emotional and practical challenges families face. The next book is The Addiction Recovery Workbook: Powerful Skills for Preventing Relapse Every Day by Paula A. Friedman. This workbook provides practical exercises and strategies for those in recovery and their families to help prevent relapse and build a strong support system. Next is Addict in the House: A No-Nonsense Family Guide Through Addiction and Recovery by Robin Barnett. This is a straightforward guide that offers advice and strategies for families navigating the challenges of addiction and recovery. The last book is The Family Guide to Addiction: Answers to Your Questions by Dr. Andrew A. H. Cheyenne. This book is a practical resource providing insight and suggestions for families impacted by addiction. Next, I'm going to list off a few articles, and these articles are as well listed in our Discord server in the resources channel under Family Resources. Our first article is going to be The Family Involvement is Important in Substance Use Disorder Treatment by the NIDA. This article emphasizes the crucial role families play in the treatment and recovery process of individuals with substance use disorder. The next article is Helping a Family Member or Friend with a Drug or Alcohol Addiction by NIAAA. This article offers practical advice for families and friends on how to support a loved one struggling with addiction, as well as How to Help a Loved One with Addiction by the American Addiction Centers. This one provides guidance on recognizing addiction, approaching the topic with a loved one, and finding the right treatment options. The last article I would have for y'all is Understanding Drug Use and Addiction: What Science Says by NIDA. This article explains the science behind addiction and offers insights into how families can better understand and support their loved ones. Lastly, we're going to get into the importance of families having their own support systems. All right. One, it's a shared experience and understanding. So, connection to similar experiences. Families engaging with support groups often find comfort in the shared experiences, allowing members to articulate their feelings and challenges without fear or judgment, as well as its emotional safety. See, you feel safe, you have a safe space to express your feelings. Having a separate support system provides a safe space for family members to express feelings like anger, sadness, and confusion without worrying about how it might affect the person struggling with addiction, as well as it provides the resource sharing, so learning from others. Support systems allow family members to learn coping mechanisms and skills and strategies from others who have successfully navigated similar challenges. Sharing resources, experiences, and coping techniques can provide new perspectives on managing stress, as well as its mental health benefits like reducing isolation and loneliness and the healing and growth. See, family members often feel isolated in their struggles being part of a support system. But being part of a different support system counteracts these feelings, fostering connection and camaraderie that can significantly improve the mental well-being, as well as engaging in these support activities can foster emotional healing and promote improved mental health, as well as create a sense of empowerment. And family members learn that they can prioritize their well-beings while still being supportive. And lastly, it's the encouragement for change. See, motivation for positive change, support systems provide encouragement and accountability for family members to take actionable steps in their own healing processes, motivating them to maintain healthy boundaries and pursue their well-being. So, navigating the complexities of addiction within a family is undoubtedly challenging, but underscoring the necessity for family members to have their own support systems, and by utilizing available resources like support groups, therapy options, and even educational tools, families can cultivate their emotional resilience while effectively supporting their loved ones in recovery. A strong support network not only bolsters personal well-being, but also creates a healthier environment that is conducive to recovery and healing, benefiting both the individual struggling and their family unit as a whole. Now, by creating a strong support network, families lay the groundwork for a healthier atmosphere that fosters recovery for both individual and the family unit. Now, in this context, understanding the role of professionals does become essential, as they can guide families in distinguishing between supportive actions and enabling behaviors that may hinder recovery. So, differentiating between support and enabling is a critical aspect for families dealing with the loved one's addiction. Now, while support involves helping someone through difficult times while promoting their independence and responsibility, enabling involves actions that inadvertently allow the addiction to persist or even worsen. But professionals such as therapists and counselors, they play an essential role in guiding families through this nuanced distinction. See, professionals such as therapists and counselors play a vital role in helping families distinguish between support and enabling, in the context of addiction by providing education, facilitating discussions, guiding the establishment of boundaries, and offering continued support and resources. These professionals can help families cultivate healthier dynamics that empower both the loved one in recovery and themselves. See, the journey towards understanding these distinctions can lead to stronger relationships, healthier coping mechanisms, and a supportive atmosphere that is conducive to recovery and healing. Thank you for joining me for this enlightening episode of Forged from Pain. I hope our exploration of the difference between support and enabling has given you valuable insights and practical strategies to help you and your loved ones navigate the challenges of addiction more effectively. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or even YouTube, so you never miss an episode. Your support means the world to us and helps spread the message of hope and healing, as well as breaking the stigma. But we'd love to hear from you and connect more deeply. So join us on our community in Discord, where we can chat, share stories, and continue the conversation. You can find the link in the bio. But remember, no matter what challenges you may face, you have the strength within you to rise above. You are not alone. Every step you take towards understanding and healing is a step worth celebrating. So keep forging your path with courage and resilience. And until next time, take care.